All righty. Well, let's go ahead and kick off today's CEO conversations. I'm Tony Thompson, your host. I'm excited to have with me today Laura Brandao, who is no stranger to me. Hopefully, if you're in the mortgage industry for longer than 2 days, she's no stranger to you, but we're looking forward to introducing her. Laura is the president and owner of MLB Wholesale. And she is based out of New Jersey, as we stated earlier. So, first and foremost, Laura, let me just say um, it is an honor to have you on my CEO conversations. And I really was looking forward to this conversation and sharing it with our audience of brokers and owners that, really are looking to just elevate their business, elevate their life. One of the things I always talk about is if you want to be successful, you need to surround yourself with people who have been, but most importantly, you need to learn from people who have been there, done that, and are what I consider a trailblazer. And certainly everything that you've done in terms of your career, your journey, you have been a trailblazer in our industry. And so I just want to send you some shout outs and some love and recognize you for everything you're doing, everything you have done to make our industry better. And we're going to unpack your journey here over the next several minutes because it's really what CEO conversations are all about is sharing that journey of the past, the present, and also the future. So first, let's jump right into it. For those who may not be familiar with MLB Wholesale, can you share a little bit about the organization?
Yeah. So this is going to tie into my journey, actually, okay, of who MLB is and how did I get here. So all the way back about 21 years ago, I worked for the very first company that I ever worked wholesale. That at that time, prior to that, I had worked in the broker world and in the retail space. But then in at that time, about 2005, I jumped into the wholesale space. And that is where my love of wholesale came from. I worked at that company and I learned the ins and outs, and I started forming these relationships with wonderful loan officers and brokers, and I fell in love with it. But remember the year that I mentioned. 2005 was really deep in subprime lending, right? So we were doing lots of different, subprime loans, just like every other company in the world. And in June of 2007, I was getting a little scared. And that was how I made the jump to start AFR Wholesale. That eventually brought me into that. Well, the gentleman that I worked for in 2005 is our current CEO of MLB Residential Lending. And so after I sold AFR, I connected with him again, and he was like, Laura, you need to come and consult over here. You got to come back home to us working together. And immediately he was like, will you do this with me? And we build out wholesale. And I said, I don't know. I've been doing this a long time. I'm not really sure what I want to do in this next phase. And he's like, Laura, you know how much you love wholesale. You know it's in your blood. You know that that's what you're passionate about. And I said, you are 100%. So MLB Wholesale, as you see behind me, says making lives better. That is the core. Everything that we do is working on how do we make lives better. Better for our loan officers, better for our brokers, better for the families we're serving, better for our teammates, better for the individuals and them working with us and what they can bring back to their families. So I couldn't say no to that, Tony, because that is so aligned to who I am and what I am. And he is correct. Wholesale is with me through and through, and it brings me such joy.
You know, it's always interesting to hear everyone's story and journey. And one of the things that I try to do when we do CEO conversations or when we're doing my podcast, I talk about these nuggets that people share with the audience, and I try to just accentuate those because those can be life-changing, career-changing opportunities if you're listening. And one of the things that struck me as you were sharing your story was the power of relationships. Here you were starting in 2005 with this company who the CEO hired you back then. In full circle, you're back there. You never know in our industry, as we always say, it is a large industry, but really it's a small industry. And the power of relationships, whether there are 1, 3, 5, or 10 years down the road, you never know what that relationship will bring. And so it's so important to just really nurture and really keep those relationships. And so that was one nugget just from your introduction of MLB and the journey that you beginning to start that I'm hoping the audience will take away from in terms of looking at how they really do and lead their career and their lives each and every day. Relationships matter.
Relationships are one of the most important things, Tony. And also never to burn a bridge.
Mm.
Always to leave everything nice and tidy and
Yeah.
amicable because you don't know. You don't know if the person that you think, oh, that person's not important becomes your boss, right? That all of a sudden you're working for that person, right? So you are 100% correct. And you also don't know where your opportunities may come for. Here did I think 21 years later, who I was this young person that didn't know anything, right? I was just starting
Wow.
out in my career. And then all this time later, here we are partners, owning the company together.
Love it. I mean, what a beautiful story. That's why you're here on really our CEO conversations. And so let's talk about leadership, and then we'll get into a little bit of the market and your perspective on what's going on within the broker channel and the mortgage industry in general. But being a leader today in any organization is not easy. And so having said that, when you're facing a decision and there's really not a clear answer that you've kind of identified, can you walk me through, Laura, like how do you go about kind of identifying and getting to, you know what, this is the solution that I'm going to go with?
Well, the very first thing is you don't necessarily know if you're making the right decision or the wrong decision, right? But as a leader, you have to make a decision. That is part of leadership, right? Like it's easy to go along and say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to take responsibility." But at the end of the day, Tony, something I learned very, very early in my life, everything is my responsibility.
Mhm.
Everything. It doesn't matter what your title is. If you live your life being accountable, that every single thing, it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility for how my clients are treated. It doesn't matter if I said it or if someone that's on my team said it. That's my responsibility, right? If something is going, awry in underwriting or in operations, that's my responsibility. It doesn't matter if I'm the COO. It's my responsibility, right? So the very first thing is that I am responsible not only for making the decisions or paying attention to what's going on, I'm also responsible from an emotional standpoint. And I'll give you a perfect example. This is a very recent thing. Last Monday, only not this Monday, but a week ago Monday, we rolled out an AI system within my company. Okay. Now, during that time, that's not an internal thing, that's an external thing for our brokers. Internally, we rolled it out maybe about 2 months ago, internally.
Sure.
Well, internally, when that was first rolled out, I had a lot of team members that were very scared by that AI. Their first impression and thought was, are they trying to replace the humans? Are they trying to change how everything is done? And people get concerned with stuff like that. So when you speak about using that as an example, it wasn't just me figuring out how do I integrate this? How do I make sure everything works properly? It was also an emotional side of things where I had to ensure that all of the team knows this is not to replace our team members. This is a way to take a lot of the heavy lifting and burden off their back so that they can spend more time building those relationships, having those phone calls with our loan officers and brokers, answering their questions, doing the support, because they're not spending 2 hours reading through line by line of a document. So every decision, first thing I would say is you're accountable. If you're a leader, it doesn't matter if your job title is associated to that function or not, you're accountable and you're responsible for it. And the second piece of it, it's not just the tactical things, it's also the emotional and human side of things. That's when people want to follow a leader. They follow you not just because you can make good strategy and execution, it's also because you care about your people.
You know, I got a feeling these next 45 minutes, we're going to end up, we're dropping nuggets, but we're going to create a diamond before this thing is all over. If everybody just sit tight, we're dropping nugget by nugget, and pretty soon we're going to have a diamond on our hands. And so, again, my second nugget is my responsibility. I mean, like literally, Laura, you're helping me to reframe my role as a leader. I already know my role as a leader. Most of us, and whether you're a leader or not, your role as an individual, your role as a broker, your role as a marketer, it doesn't matter. Whatever your role is, it's my responsibility because sometimes we get into scenarios and instances where, hey, that's the marketing team. I didn't do that. We're sales. Or that's underwriting and ops, and I'm sales, and really taking that responsibility and owning that, it's my responsibility. I think I'm gonna have to put that on my board because I love that to remind me every day as a leader and a person, it's my responsibility. No matter
It
what,
is.
it's
It
my
is.
responsibility. And so again, I love that. That was probably at least a half a carrot right there of a nugget. So we're well on our way to a multi-carat ring here before this journey is over. Let's start one more question around leadership. I am curious, given your tenure in the industry, given the amount of time that you've spent leading teams and leading organizations, what's the hardest people decision you've ever had to make as a leader? And what did it teach you, Laura?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I can count on my, luckily, less than one hand. I can count the times I've had to downsize a company. And every single one of them, I can remember. I can remember the decision. I can remember going through the process. And this is really interesting, but I can remember feeling sick during that process. Like to the point of like having migraines. One time I wound up going to the emergency room and I thought to myself, I can't believe that that physically affected me that much. But that's how much of a responsibility my company and my team is to me. I'm responsible for all of those people. Every single one of those people is my responsibility. And, sometimes people can say, well, it's the market decision and this and that. Things are always going to be happening. It doesn't matter what year it is, it doesn't matter what's going on in external factors. As a leader, again, as I said, it doesn't matter. So, luckily, I'm very fortunate that in my entire career of being a leader, it's less than one hand have I had to do that. But what are the lessons that you learn? You know what, Tony? I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It is not an easy decision for me. So, you know what my lesson is? I need to do better up front. If I notice that something is happening, then that is, again, my responsibility that I got to pivot. I got to figure out how to market more. I got to figure out how to get up earlier to be able to do more in my CRM. I need to be able to be screaming from the rooftop. I got to come up with new products. I got to come up with pricing incentives. I got to go out and I got to do more because the lesson that I learned is it's still on me. It's easy for people to say, I can make tough decisions. I'm the leader. I'm making tough decisions. That's actually a cop out. What you really need to do is how do you prevent that from happening? What are your stop gaps? Where can you cut your costs? How can you better negotiate those vendor contracts? How can you stop chasing the next shiny ball? How can you make sure that you're prepared where you're putting away, anyone that's ever worked for me knows my expression, where are you putting your nuts away? So when the winter comes, you can use those nuts and you bring them out because you put them away. You didn't spend them. You didn't go out flashy. You didn't go and spend all of that and give it away. You took those nuts, and that takes, you got to be tough. You got to make sure you're saving that money for that rainy day when the market turns in the other direction. Because you know what? That's where you really have to be minding the store. And I'm telling you, I don't like the fact of ever having to make those decisions. So then that's my job to ensure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I love that. Again, a couple nuggets. One, you gotta make sure that you're putting your nuts away. Like we know in this industry, yes, it was great, but yes, it is hard some days than others. And so, whether you're a broker or a broker owner or originator or even an underwriter, and you're having in those good years, those additional incentives, you gotta put those nuts away because anybody who's been around knows that this is a cyclical industry. And so the people who are successful are smart enough to realize it won't always be this way. And so I love the analysis and the philosophy of how you look at really your leadership, particularly in good days, but more importantly, in bad days. I often say you can tell the character of a leader when what they do when things aren't going right. The ownership, the acceptance, and the responsibility that they take versus casting blame on someone else, on the market, whatever the case may be. Because at the end of the day, I think you and I, Laura, are cut from the same cloth. I can't just get in a room and go tell 50 people your job is eliminated or whatever without having, helping them because those are families. At the end of
Yes.
the day, those are families that I've gotten to know. Those are families that depend and care on we as a company, what we do. And so, good leaders always remember that, people are connected to families,
Yeah.
and families are
And
connected to communities.
you spoke about true leaders when times are difficult. Just another piece of advice for anyone listening to this. Please, when things get difficult, you have to over communicate. You have to go to the front. Do not retreat. Do not pull back. Do not stop communicating. I'll give you an example of something. I started this many years ago, but I've continued it now. Every single morning at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and just keep in mind, that's whether I'm in Arizona or not, 5 a.m. Eastern time, an email goes out to my entire company telling them where we are, what's going on, what do we need to accomplish today, if we did something great, or if there's a lesson we need to learn. You will never have a day that there is not an email from me telling you exactly where we are as a company. What did we do great? What do we need to learn? What's happening? What are our numbers? What is the activity in sales? How many new loans came in? How many underwrites did we do? How many did we fund? How many clear to close? Every single day, complete transparency of where we are, what needs to happen, and how we're collectively doing it. You have to do that for your teams. Sometimes, whether it's something you're celebrating or, hey, we need to work a little harder, it doesn't matter. You have to over communicate to your teams. It's very scary, especially in a world where we're working remotely. People have no idea what's going on. Not every single person in the company knows, are we doing okay? Are we not doing okay? What's going on? Another thing that we do every month that I implemented when I came, monthly town halls. Another recommendation, I don't care if you have one person on the team or you've got 1,000 people on your team. Make sure people know what's coming, where are we, what's our focus, what's happening. We have to communicate to everyone, regardless of what level they're in, not just the executive team. Every person in the company needs to know did we hit our goal? Are we not hitting our goal? What are we doing to hit our goal? Like all of that needs to happen on a daily basis, not just when we feel like it.
Love that. Love that. And another couple nuggets. One, over communicate. I remember you brought my mom, I mean, you made me go back down, memory lane. But when we were in the Great Recession, for anyone who was in that period, every company was meeting every day, every morning, to figure out some stuff, right? Like every company. And I remember now that you brought that back, I'm like, yeah, I remember. I mean, it was making sure everybody was communicating, their employees down to the front desk receptionists understood where
Mhm.
the company was, what they needed to do, where they were headed, what's the next steps. But we over communicated in that period. And, as things got better and better, slowly I can sense and now say, hey, I don't see too many people, too many leaders doing that. And again, that's why we have these conversations as a reminder that it's important not to do things when you have to do them, but do them when you're supposed to and they need to be done. And so
And a
love that.
lot of times you won't have to do them
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
doing them on a regular basis. That's the key to the whole thing. And another little insight, the reason why I do the 5 a.m. Eastern time every day, two reasons. I can tell you from someone that ran operations for many years of my career. I remember waking up in the morning and usually walking into a list of emails that maybe were not friendly. It's usually, why didn't this happen? Or this family has to close in the next 5 minutes. Like there are usually things coming at you. So, number one, I do it because I want my message to be the first thing they see in the morning. So that's one. The
Okay.
second reason why I do it, holding myself accountable.
Mm,
They know that they've got a leader that no matter what day of the week it is, whatever's happening in the world, they're getting my message before 5 a.m. Eastern time. No matter what is going on, they're getting it. That shows them they can rely on me as a leader. So that's kind of my leadership collateral, right? Like that's me getting where they're like, I trust this person with my family. And that is the way I feel. They're entrusting their family to me.
yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I truly, truly love that. Laura, let's switch a little bit and talk about the industry right
Yeah.
now. Um, Wholesale lending has been up and down over the years, but we're seeing more up than down, I would say, and we're projecting more up, at least from my opinion, over the next several years. What's driving the resurgence of wholesale?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I've seen it, of course, when I first started my wholesale company, that was the low point, right? That was when the brokers kind of went to their lowest point. So I've watched it from the lowest point to now over these last few years where you're watching this come together. I mean, I think people are recognizing that they want to have options. They want to have the ability to be have that flexibility of making a decision of the best program, the best rate stack, the best options for their particular families. So I think that has been very, very popular. I think that the wholesale channel has become a lot more structured over the last few years, right? So I think it wasn't always that way, right? It wasn't as structured, and people would say, oh well, it doesn't work because maybe there's not as much enough support, or maybe there's not enough training, or maybe people really don't know. But at the end of the day, wholesale from a lending perspective has become a lot more competitive. Well, we all know when things become more competitive, everything has to level up, right? Because if there's competition, you have to continue to get better and better. Well, as wholesale lenders continue to level up and get better and better, well, that just provides more opportunities to the loan officers and to the brokers. And I think, there's I'm not going to name specifically, but there's many a wonderful broker organization out there. There's a couple of them that people can choose and decide what works best for them. But I think that also has allowed more structure, more training, more opportunity of knowing this is how you become a broker owner. This is what you need to know. And there's so many different options. You can go and work for a very large broker. You can go and work for a smaller local boutique broker. So I think all of these things has transformed over the last couple of years where it really isn't one size. Now you have a wide variety of different options that really can fit into whatever works best for that particular loan officer or their team. So I think those changes are making this growth happen. And again, from my perspective on the lender side, I love the fact that these loan officers have these options. I think it allows them to serve their community. It allows them to have variety to say, this is the best program, the best rate option. And from my side, again, from the lender side, listen, when I say I hold myself accountable, our clients hold us accountable. Like if you're in the wholesale space, it's funny. I was just having this conversation with someone where someone said, why did you decide to go wholesale? Like, meaning, why do you love the wholesale side? Now, of course, I believe everybody should be in whatever side works best for them. I'm not a pro one way or the other. Whatever works for you and your family, wonderful. That's great. The reason why I personally like wholesale, I believe it's a challenge. Like, I believe we are absolutely held that we have to continue to raise the bar at all times. There is no way you can be complacent. There is no way you can say that's the way we've always done it. You are going to be challenged and leveled up at all time. I think that's a wonderful thing because at the end of the day, the family on the other side of that closing table is going to benefit from that.
Love that. Certainly as we get a resurgence and we have more, I mean, it seems like every day I see more and more wholesale lenders coming
That's what
in,
I'm
whether it's
saying.
it's non-QM, whether it's reverse mortgages or just starting a wholesale.
Yes.
We see that accountability. And so what has changed about what brokers and correspondents need today from a lending partner like MLB, making lives better, than we were 5 years ago, Laura?
Well, I don't even know if that's necessarily tied specifically to wholesale, but I think our borrowers and families have changed. So just like I was speaking about that leveling up on the
Yep.
wholesale lending side, it's the same thing with the borrowers that all of us are working with, right? I think the world and society as a whole, it's instant gratification. People want answers. People want answers fast. People want communication on their terms, right? Whatever those terms are. Whether I want to receive a text, I want to receive a voicemail, I want to receive a voice text, I want an email. Like everyone wants whatever they want. And I have to tell you, you have to do it. If you are not adapting and changing and modifying and go along with all of that, you're not going to be here for too long. So, what I think the brokers need and the loan officers need, I think they need great communication. I think they need to know what is happening at all times because they're on the hook with the realtor. They're on the hook with the family. They're on the hook with the title company. And if they're left in the dark, not having those answers, they could lose business. They could potentially not be able to serve their communities. So I think the biggest change that I've watched over the last couple of years, and it's only getting more and more, you gotta be on at all times. There is no such thing. I mean, man, when I first started my first wholesale lender, I mean, I can remember it was like, oh, the company stopped. The company doesn't stop now. I mean, last night I'll share. I was on the treadmill. It was 8:30 at night, and I was getting a text message from my client services line, and I'm like, okay, here we go, sir. I'm here to help you. How can I help you? And I love that. I love the fact that I can help. I love the fact I can serve. But you have to be available for them at all times. You got to give them the right answers. You have to communicate on their terms, whatever way they want to be communicated. And you have to be a true partner. Years ago, many years ago, I'm speaking after the Great Recession, it was the whole term of he who holds the gold, right? He who has the gold makes the rules. It's not that way anymore. Like at the end of the day, you have to be on every minute, communicating effectively and working with your partners how they do business, whatever way that business is. Meaning there is not a one size fit all again.
Love that. Love that. Let's talk a little bit about the broker channel of today.
Yeah.
What do you see? Obviously, at MLB, you have and you get an opportunity to work with tons of brokers throughout our industry, which is exciting, which is again why you're here today on CEO Conversations to get your perspective. What do you see that's a common mistake that originators or brokers are making when trying to grow and scale their business in this space?
Yeah.
Any
I mean,
wisdom for them there?
I'm telling you, Tony, I think it's basic. I think it's very basic. And especially you mentioned cyclical, the challenges of we could go on with, we all know, inventory shortage and the rates and the inconsistency and the overall economy and people kind of hesitating, to make decisions and things like that. The biggest thing that I see, don't stop. Like I've noticed that people get into this routine where they allow their emotion to control their action. So my greatest piece of advice, no matter who's listening, right, but specifically on the broker side, I watch people go through this cycle of up and down, where they do the work, they get some files, they get some families, they do it, and then they think it's just going to come again. It
Yeah.
doesn't come again. You have to continue to always do the work. The amount of activity, we mentioned relationship. The deeper relationships need to be had. Those relationships do not happen in one conversation. Do your 7 touches. We all know it takes 7 times working with someone, communicating with someone, reaching out to them seeing your name before they feel connected to you. It takes at least 7 times. Before 7 times, you've just come into their life and out of their life. You have to, where I see the biggest issue I see at this time is not getting into the rhythm with the stop and the start. You have to consistently do it even when you don't see those plants growing. You have to.
Here's another nugget. 7 times, 7 touches, seven anything. And seven's a great number in my world, but seven. That really says something though. I think, and this is retail, this is wholesale, anybody. Our industry is one of those where it's an instant gratification. If I call Laura and I tell her who I am and what I do, and Laura say, "Hey Tony, it's a pleasure to meet you, but thanks, but no thanks. I'm happy, I'm satisfied." Most of the time, most salespeople in our industry never make it a seven. Heck, most don't never make it a two, and quite often, 95% may not make it past three, I would say, Laura, based on my conversations with LOs. But you're dropping some really great nuggets, and this is about anything in life, whether you're in sales, as a business owner, because even if you're an originator, I always like to say you're the CEO of your business, you're the CEO of your career, you're the CEO of your family, in most instances as well. And so 7 touches is just a nugget to remind everybody you're not going to get where you want to be the first time. You're not going to get the answer or the relationship built off that first or second or third connection. But if you don't stop, you will be miles ahead above most people who do quit at number one or number two or number three.
That is correct. And remember, those touches are a variety of way. You could, one's a call, one's an email, one's a text message, one's
Yeah,
something commenting on their social media. Like
yeah,
there's many different varieties, but remember what happens. If I was trying to, connect with Tony to do some business with him, yeah, maybe the first time I reach out, we have a lovely conversation. Okay, that's fine. All right, great. We had a wonderful
yeah.
conversation. But again, if I don't follow up after that, he's not going to remember. Yes, it was a lovely conversation, but really not an impact But then we follow up with the email. Then after the email, we send a text message. Happy Father's Day. Happy summer, whatever, right? So there's the text message. Then after that, I reach out because I saw he posted that he just got a new puppy. Oh, Tony, my goodness, I saw your new puppy on social media. He is adorable. I just had to let you know how cute he is. And then I'm commenting on his social. By that time, Tony now at this point, every time he sees the name Laura Brandao, he's like, ah, there's Laura again. Look at
Yeah.
that. There's Laura again. I keep seeing Laura. Look at that. And I'm telling you, at that point, remember, every time we're speaking about that, make sure Tony knows I do mortgages. I'm your local mortgage gal. I'm here to help you with whatever mortgage needs you have. And make sure that Tony knows that over and over and over. Because I promise you, when Tony's at the picnic and the barbecue and his brother says, man, I just put in a bid. I'm not really sure who to go to. You gotta call Laura the mortgage gal. Laura the mortgage gal, man, she's the nicest woman. She like she I just had a conversation about my puppy. You gotta call Laura. I'll connect you. There you go.
You hit on something that I think is important also around another nugget regarding the seven touches, Laura. You mentioned, which is actually really important, the seven touches doesn't have to be I'm calling Laura once a week for 7 weeks. You just talked about an omni-channel, omni approach where there is some real life connection. What do I know about Laura? Is there anything I can reach out and talk to her about, ask her about, and check in? Not even talking about sales, but checking in. Hey, there's a text. Oh, Laura just posted that she won her award. Let me hit the lights and make a statement so that she sees I see you. That within itself is just deep because again, oftentimes on the surface you hear seven touches. Okay, hey Laura, it's Tony. Hey Laura, it's Tony. Hey Laura, nah. You really make that a multifaceted, multi-pronged approach on how you communicate and make it intentional. Man, I tell you, I mean, I'm writing off. I got two books already. It's my responsibility. Foreword and attribution is going to be credited to Laura Brandao. Seven touches, like like again but like that is deep, Laura.
I'm telling you, it works, Tony. Like it's 100% works. Like not a chance that it doesn't work because you said it. And I wish I used to know the numbers. What you said, where you were like, this many people do the one,
Yep,
this
yeah,
many people do.
exactly. Yep.
There's a whole, if you put that into ChatGPT right now, there's statistics. I don't remember
Yes,
it anymore, but
exactly.
there's percentages of the number of people that get past five. All I'm going to say to everyone listening, the highway is very empty. You're going to be one of the only people on the highway when you get to number 4, 5, 6, 7, because everyone stops at about two or three, at most.
And so often when I'm out in the marketplace speaking, and as we do the Chasing Excellence interviews that we've started on our podcast, one of the things that as I ask top originators, and we're talking people who are doing 160 units a year, 150 million, 300 million, or if they're in a first-time home buyer DPA, they're doing, 100 DPAs a year. You do 100 DPAs a
Yeah.
year, that's like times three conventional loans. And one question I always ask them is, what do you contribute to your success? And consistently, it is just staying consistent to the process. And that goes into the law of seven touches. To your point, once you get past five, it's an interstate out
There's
there,
no
baby,
one there.
because everybody has given up. So I didn't even think about it that way. It's like, look, the more you make the call, the bigger the chance because if you just walk into a vault and nobody's there, you get all the money. And so it's
Let's
just a
take all of
matter,
them.
it's a matter of just making the touches and being consistent. That again, another nugget in this diamond that we're building here, man. Wow. I want to pivot a little bit because I also want to share. and talk a little bit more about your journey. And I can't wait to share this for those who missed it on this conversation. I can't wait to share this on the on LinkedIn and my social channels because this is some really good stuff. When you went from president of American Financial Resources, AFR, to your current role, what pulled you towards this next chapter? Because you could have done a lot of different things. Matter of fact, in my opinion, you could have said, it's been great and it's been wonderful, but you know what? I'm out. Because you don't need to, you didn't have to.
No.
Why?
Yeah. So believe me, Tony, and my husband's name is Tony, you know that. Many a conversation with my Tony of what is next, right? And because listen, I thought about, I can go and be a speaker. I can speak about say yes. I can build this huge following. I can do that. And I tested that stuff out. I'm not gonna say I didn't test those things out, right? Then I said I can consult, which I did. I consulted for some companies. And that was wonderful. I learned so much. I learned about other companies. I learned things I didn't even think I knew. I knew it. Like I had the knowledge, right? I just wasn't challenged in that direction. And I learned it. But at the end of the day, Tony, what I realized was I love the broker community. I love it. I'm driven by their entrepreneurial ability, right? Because they're not just loan officers, they're business owners and they have to have the full package, right? They have to know how to run their business, plus they need to know how to originate and they need to be problem solvers and they need to always stay on top of things. A step ahead. They need to be a step ahead, right? Because they don't have a huge company behind them with infrastructure. A lot of times they're a smaller company and they have to know which way to pivot and which way to go. But I'm going to ultimately tell you what the decision was. Two things, probably. One, I already told you that the CEO, Sam Lamparello, that I worked with 21 years ago, that's definitely one reason because this man is an absolute saint and his whole mission is about giving back and making lives better. So that was a very important part, going back to that relationship and being connected and partnered with someone I know, like, and trust. So that definitely is a big. But here's the second piece. When Sam and I came together and we said, let's do this, right? Let's own this, let's do this, right? He said to me, Laura, I want you to bring your family into this. He's like, I love you and I love everything about what you've done, but I want this to be something we do collectively with our family. And I have two grown boys, my Jonathan and Michael, and both of those children work with me at MLB Wholesale. And my Jonathan runs learning and development, does all the trainings and new products. And Michael is my VP of technology. He does everything in our technology, from our new AI to system to everything. So Tony, what was the draw? Yes, I love wholesale. Yes, Sam is an absolute incredible partner. And third, I am creating a legacy of the future generation of Brandaos that
Yeah.
will be part of this wholesale channel.
I share that same passion and vision with what I do, and certainly the legacy and the impact that we're trying to make as well. And so I just love that, man. I mean that's awesome, and that's also about making lives better, right? You want to make those around you better, including your family better. And so even the motto of the MLB, I really love as well. Lori, speaking of people, Laura, who have made an impact, is there one person, or you can say what has had the biggest influence on how you lead today?
It started at home.
Mm,
So everything started very early in my upbringing from my parents.
yeah,
My father was a Navy military guy. That is where I get my accountability, my consistency, and taking responsibility for everything. So that is where that comes from. And on my mom's side, my mother, there's three girls and a boy in our family, my siblings. And my mother turned, now again, remember this era, right? My mother got married in 1961, right? So you think of the era that my
Yeah.
mom grew up in. And my mother turned to every one of her daughters and she said, "You can do anything. No one can stop you but you. And if you can think of it, you can accomplish it." I was brought up that way that I had no limits. There was not one thing that anyone could stop me from doing, except myself. If I didn't work hard enough, if I didn't follow through, if I didn't do what the expectation was, then that's me that did that. But no one else is going to stop me from doing it.
Laura, I'm going to have to send you some money after this because my third book is called No Limits. I'm just saying, like, I've got three books already that I'm getting ready to write, man. I mean, like, it's my responsibility, seven touches, and then no limits. I mean, I'm gonna send you the money. I promise I will give you in my foreword, I will let everyone know how these books came about. But man, you're dropping some nuggets right now. And I love, how early on you gave the credit to where, that leadership principle, that tiger, was instilled. And so I think that's just beautiful, you know. Speaking of that personal journey, let's talk about Say Yes. What's the backstory behind Say Yes every day?
Yes, I love that. And okay, so I'm taking you guys back. I'm building AFR Wholesale 2007. It's now 2018. 2007 to 2018, I say my leg was tied to the desk. And what I mean by that, I never left the office. I was in that office at 5 in the morning. I left that office at 8 o'clock at night and came back 5 in the morning the next day. I didn't go anywhere. My morning, noon, night, 7 days a week was that company building it, and I was very happy to do so. But in 2018, margin compression happened. All of a sudden, the loan, you were doing plenty of business, but all of a sudden you weren't making what you used to be making, and it was a lot less profit. I had to figure out how to double in size. I had to figure out how to grow this company. And at that time, I received a phone call of somebody asking me to speak on a stage. And I said yes. I said, absolutely. I'm happy to come. I'll speak on a stage. And about 2 weeks before that event, I got so scared, Tony. I had never been on a stage. I had never left the office. I had never been to a conference. I had never been anywhere. Okay. And so I called one of my salespeople and I'm like, "Hey, will you do this little thing for me?" And he's like, "Sure, I'll go up on the stage, no problem." Well, the person from the conference called me and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No big deal. My sales guy's going to do it." He goes, "No, you are not doing that. You are getting up on that stage. You're the one I want. I don't want anybody else. You're doing it." So for the next 2 weeks, I watched YouTube videos and TED Talks and all this stuff to try to prepare. I got up on that stage, and as soon as I was done, I had a line of women waiting to speak to me. And those women said, "Laura, we have never seen the president of a company that was a woman up on a stage before." And in that moment, Tony, something clicked in my brain. And I said, "Oh my God, I almost let fear stop me from inspiring all these women." And in that moment, I realized I needed to say yes to things that scared me. And I made a promise that I will never let fear ever hold me back from anything. So the whole premise behind it is that I go into every situation with no preconceived notions or expectations. I just do it. So I don't say, "Oh, if this happens, then it was a failure, or this was a success." I just enjoy the moment and I allow myself to say yes and be free and be the best that I can be and hope that I've inspired or I've made someone else's life better or I've created a ripple of leaving a lasting positive impact in anything that I do.
Wow. Whew, man, if I had a mic, I would drop the mic and just go ahead and call it a wrap, man. But we gotta. I have two more questions that I want to try to squeeze in here, but that was very, very powerful. Laura, what would you say to someone in the audience right now who's sitting on an opportunity but afraid to say yes? What would you tell them?
Number one, saying yes is not about saying yes to everything. So please be very mindful. I'm not telling everyone to go out and just throw all caution to the wind. We do. So the first thing I would say, know all the details. Because with every opportunity, it comes with the fact that you need to ask those questions. You need to look at it without emotion, emotion on both sides. Sometimes excitement can make things look really good, but then there's some details you might miss. So remove the fear emotion and remove the excitement emotion. Make sure you ask plenty and plenty of questions and then analyze it from a perspective of, if I was 15 years in the future, would I regret this if I didn't say yes? Ask yourself that once you know the answers to your questions. And if that answer is, I would regret it, then it sounds to me like you should say yes.
Great. Love that. Man, that's really truly awesome here. I'm going to try to sneak in two more questions as we close out. What's the one thing you wish every leader in our industry understood right now?
The impact that we have. I
Mm,
don't know. Sometimes I don't know if leaders, I'll put leader and parent in the same sentence. I don't know if some leaders or parents realize what we say, how we say it, what we do to lead these people, how much of an impact it has. I can tell you that sometimes I get team members that literally you would almost think it's abuse the way they've been treated. And that makes me very sad because I love our industry. I love everything about it. But I have actually seen people with so much baggage from the fact of having poor leaders
mm.
mistreat some people. So I wish everyone to realize that that negative comment, that tone, that reprimand in front of other people, that those things, they weigh on humans. We're humans. And those things are carried onto us like scars that last, and they don't just stop with them. They take that home to their spouses and their children and their communities. So I wish everybody would just realize, check yourself sometime. If you need to walk away, you need to go outside and take a breath before you have that conversation with your team and how you're leading that company. Put yourself in a timeout because what you do has a lasting effect on other people.
Wow, that is really, really, really impactful. A lasting effect.
Yeah.
A lasting effect. That's book number four. A lasting effect. Man. Laura, um, I want to thank you for joining us today in our CEO conversations. We've got a few moments, and before I close out, I want to recognize and give you flowers while you are still alive today. Many people don't know. 2 weeks ago, I was in a bad car accident, car driving down the road, driving down the interstate to meet my newborn granddaughter in the hospital. And less than 10 miles away, a car turned in front of me and caused me to go off the interstate and run into a tree 80 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness.
Totaled the car and literally walked away. So, needless to say, for the last 2 weeks, my life has been looked at through a different lens because we could have been talking about a memorial service for Tony and all of those things. And what I realized in that moment after I went through that experience is first, you never know when that day may be your last day.
Oh.
But the second thing I realized was there are so many people in my life and so many people who have had a part of my life that I get a chance right now to go back to them and tell them thank you for inspiring me, for encouraging me, for even being a unofficial mentor to what little success I have had in my life in our industry thus far. And when I think of those individuals, you have been one of the people in my life that has played a positive role as a leader, not a female leader, not a male leader, a leader, period, because of how you say yes, because of how you show up, because no matter who the person is, big or small, I've been in rooms with you across many industries and many times and many conferences, and the same Laura shows up
Mhm.
in every instance. And I just want to let you know that even when you don't think no one is watching, no one is learning, no one is looking, I want you to know that they are because I am. And you have been a big inspiration to me to be a better leader each and every day based on all the things that you have done and shown as a leader. And so I just want to give you your flowers, as I said, because again,
I will take those flowers, Tony. Thank you.
when you go through a life experience, you kind of have different perspectives. And until it happens to you, you're like, oh, okay, that's great. But you never know when we get off this call today, what's going to happen next. And so I just wanted to thank you and to give you that love of how you've impacted my life. And I know if you've impacted my life, you've impacted a lot of other people, which is why we wanted to get you on CEO Conversations to share this journey, to share the moment, and again, to say thank you for what you've done in our industry. And most importantly, again, in the lives of the people that you're touching and continuing to lead today. Any departing thoughts?
I think that's a beautiful way to end with the message of never hold that back. To everyone listening to this, be generous with your love, be generous with your kindness. Because if we don't have that in this world, what do we have? Right? So that's how we're going to end it, Tony.
Well, Laura, again, thank you for your time. I truly appreciate it and definitely look forward to seeing you soon. Guys, this concludes our CEO conversations. And again, a very sincere thank you to Laura for being my guest for this quarter CEO conversation. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. Take care.
Thank you.